Manchester United have spent more money on transfers than almost any club on the planet over the last 10 years. And yet, during that exact same stretch, Manchester City, Liverpool, and even Arsenal have built teams with an actual identity, while United burned through 6 different permanent managers and billions of pounds on players who, honestly, never fit what the team was trying to do. So today we're breaking down the biggest failure in this club's modern history. Not one bad signing, not one bad season. A full decade of transfer decisions that ignored the one question every smart club asks before spending a single pound. Does this player actually fit how we want to play? And we're looking at how Micheal Carrick, the man now cleaning it all up, is trying to fix that. Plus what his plans actually look like heading into the 2026-27 season. Welcome to Football Detailing. Let's get started. To really get why United are where they are, you've got to look at the bigger picture. Since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, this club has gone through David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralf Rangnick, Erik ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, a short caretaker spell under Darren Fletcher, and now Micheal Carrick. That's 9 different footballing visions in about 12 years. 9. That instability is basically the root of everything. Almost every time a new manager walked in the door, he wanted a different system. And for years, United's recruitment team didn't really have one clear football philosophy running through it. So instead of building towards something, the club kept buying players to patch whatever problem was in front of them that particular summer. Just look at the pattern. Angel Di Maria arrived under Van Gaal in 2014 for a British record fee and was gone within a year, sold at a loss, clearly miserable in Manchester the whole time. Then Paul Pogba became the most expensive player in the world when United brought him back from Juventus in 2016 for £89 million. He was talented, no doubt, but his form was up and down for years. His relationship with the club kept breaking down, and by the time all was said and done, fee, wages, agent fees, United had sunk something like £150 to £170 million into him before he walked out on a free transfer in 2022. Romelu Lukaku cost around £75 million and was sold at a big loss within 2 years. Alexis Sanchez arrived in a swap deal on wages that reportedly touched £500,000 a week and barely did anything before United actually had to pay to get rid of him. Then there's the whole Ed Woodward era of recruitment, which a lot of fans still point to as the moment things really went sideways. Signings that felt more about marketability and headlines than actually solving a tactical problem. And it didn't stop when Woodward left either. Under Erik ten Hag, United broke their transfer record again for Antony, somewhere around £82 million to Ajax for a winger who just could not find any consistency in the Premier League. He was eventually sold to Real Betis for a fraction of that, something like £22 million. Harry Maguire's £80 million move from Leicester back in 2019 is still, to this day, the most expensive fee ever paid for a defender anywhere in football. And while Maguire later rebuilt his reputation as a solid squad player, that price tag never really matched the output. And then Jadon Sancho, £73 million from Dortmund in 2021, arrived with huge hype, never came close to reproducing his Dortmund form, got frozen out under Ten Hag entirely, and eventually left permanently for Chelsea, for a fraction of what United paid for him. Now here's the thing. The common thread in almost all of these deals isn't simply bad player. Several of these guys are genuinely gifted footballers. The common thread is fit. United kept signing wingers who wanted to cut inside and dribble when the system needed actual width. They signed ball-playing center-backs into setups built around physical dominance. They brought in a 30-year-old World Cup winner in Casemiro, on huge wages, with zero long-term succession plan behind him, which worked beautifully for one season and then declined fast as age caught up. That's the definition of a club buying without an identity. So why did this go on for so long? Part of it is just structural. For most of the last decade, United didn't really have a proper sporting director translating one football philosophy across recruitment, coaching, and the academy. Transfer decisions came out of committee, commercial interests, whichever manager was in the building, and boardroom priorities, all pulling in different directions at once. That only really started to change once Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of the football side. Since then, United have brought in Omar Barada as CEO and Jason Wilcox as Director of Football, both pulled from Manchester City's setup, with the explicit goal of building a proper, data-driven, identity-first recruitment model, instead of reacting to whoever happens to be managing that season. But even that new structure had a rocky start. Ruben Amorim came in during November 2024 with a clear tactical idea, a back three system built around wingbacks. But the squad he inherited had spent years being assembled for back four football under previous regimes. It just didn't fit. He was sacked in January 2026, despite United sitting sixth in the league at the time, with the hierarchy reportedly frustrated with his demeanor and clashing with him over his style of play. Darren Fletcher took 2 games as interim before Micheal Carrick stepped in. And honestly, that's the perfect proof of everything we've been talking about. You can't fix 10 years of mismatched recruitment by hiring one more manager with one more system and just hoping the same disjointed squad suddenly clicks into place. Carrick's route back to Old Trafford wasn't some fairy tale out-of-nowhere appointment. He'd already put in nearly 3 years learning his trade at Middlesbrough, taking over in October 2022, with the club sitting 21st in the championship and dragging them all the way up to 4th place and the playoffs in his very first season, before later reaching a Carabao Cup semi-final. That grounding, building a team with limited resources around a clear defensive structure and patient possession, is exactly the kind of coaching experience United's previous appointments were often missing. Carrick stepped in as interim in January 2026, guided the club through the rest of that season, and the job was made permanent in May 2026, after a proper hiring process from the club's hierarchy. He brought his old Middlesbrough assistant, Jonathan Woodgate, along with him as part of his coaching staff. And the turnaround has genuinely been one of the biggest stories in the Premier League. Where Amorim's United looked disjointed and low on confidence, Carrick went back to basics. Defensive organization first, which was always his own specialty as a player under Ferguson, before layering possession patterns on top of that foundation. United finished 3rd in the Premier League in 2025/26, a huge improvement that locked in Champions League football for this coming season. That, more than any single transfer, is the real story of United's recovery. Identity before personnel. Carrick didn't walk in asking, "Which superstar can we buy?" He asked, "What does this group of players actually need to be competitive again?" And the results followed. Now here's where it gets interesting, because Carrick's summer business looks nothing like the panic buys of previous windows. United's first big move of the summer was Brazilian midfielder André Santos from Chelsea, a deal worth around £48 to £50 million with add-ons, on a contract running all the way to 2031. When he signed, Santos talked about how excited he was to learn from Carrick specifically, calling him the perfect coach to help take his career to the next level, and he spoke about the ambition and environment the club has built. That's not the kind of thing a player says when he's just been sold on wages and reputation. That's a player buying into a project and a relationship with his coach. United also moved for Youri Tielemans, activating a release clause to bring him in from Aston Villa on a 5-year deal, adding some genuine Premier League-tested composure to a midfield that has lacked control for years. Compare that to the Casemiro situation a few years back, a marquee name bought with no succession plan in place. Tielemans feels like the opposite, a calculated, value-driven signing aimed at one specific problem. There's also been some serious squad rationalization, not just spending. Casemiro's 4-year Old Trafford career came to a close this summer, with his exit confirmed after his contract wasn't extended. Compare that unsentimental, plan-driven call to the way United used to hang on to aging or ill-fitting players out of stubbornness or reputation, and you can see the difference in approach. Reports also suggest United have been clearing space, in the goalkeeping department and elsewhere, to fund further business, with an attacking midfielder, a left-back, and another central midfielder reportedly still on the shortlist as the window continues. Names like Ruben Neves, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and Wilfred Ndidi have all been linked as the club keeps assessing the market for players who actually fit Carrick's profile, rather than just the biggest name available. And maybe the most telling thing of all, Carrick has spent real time repairing relationships that had completely broken down under previous regimes, instead of just cutting players loose. He's been reported as keen on bringing Marcus Rashford back into the fold, and he's made it clear that sorting out Bruno Fernandes's long-term future at the club is a genuine priority, a huge contrast to the uncertainty that surrounded the captain during the final months of the Amorim era. That's an identity marker in itself, fixing culture and relationships, not just fixing a spreadsheet. So what does the Carrick identity actually look like in practice? Based on his time at Middlesbrough and his first year and a half at Old Trafford, a few things really stand out. Defensive control comes first. Carrick builds his teams from the back and wants a settled structure before he asks anyone to take risks in possession, the complete opposite of the high-error, high-chaos football United were producing under some of his predecessors. Positional discipline over star power. The recruitment now looks targeted at specific tactical roles, a real holding presence, a left back with clearly defined attributes, a creative midfielder who can unlock deep defensive blocks, rather than just chasing whichever marketable name happens to be available that summer. Culture and relationships actually matter. Carrick has put real effort into rebuilding trust with senior players like Fernandes and Rashford, instead of treating unhappy stars as assets to just move on and forget about. And there's patience, finally, in the contract lengths. 5- and 6-year deals for players like Santos and Tielemans tell you the club is building for continuity now, not chasing short-term fixes to keep whoever's in the manager's office happy for 18 months. None of this guarantees anything, obviously, but it's a genuine break from the chaos of the last decade, when United bought reactively, sold at a loss, and rarely let one footballing idea breathe for more than a season and a half before ripping it up and starting over again. United go into this season off the back of their best Premier League finish in years, with Champions League football back at Old Trafford after that third-place finish. That alone changes everything about how this summer's business gets judged. European football brings extra revenue, extra squad depth needs, and a lot more scrutiny. The priorities for this campaign really seem to boil down to 3 things. First, prove last season wasn't a one-off. Consolidate the defensive gains made since January 2026. Second, finish off the rebuild by adding the last pieces reportedly still on the club's list: an attacking midfielder, a left back, more central midfield depth, while continuing to move on anyone who doesn't fit the system. Third, actually compete on both fronts. A genuine Premier League title push for the first time in years, and using Champions League football to rebuild some relevance in Europe after a decade spent mostly in the Europa League or worse. There's a bit of symbolic weight to this season too, if you think about it. Carrick is a former United captain in every sense but the armband, a class of Ferguson figure trying to rebuild an identity the club lost somewhere between the FFP-era vanity signings and a decade of managerial roulette. If United can build on last season and actually turn Champions League football into real progress, it validates the whole idea that the club's biggest failure was never one transfer. It was 10 years where nobody in the building could agree on what Manchester United was even supposed to look like. Manchester United's last decade is basically a case study in what happens when a football club spends without a plan. 9 managers, multiple club record fees that didn't come off, and a squad that for years never really looked like a team. Micheal Carrick inherited that mess in January 2026, and in a season and a half, he's tried to fix it the same way he used to play the game: patiently, positionally, without the ego. Whether 2026/27 is the season United finally look like Manchester United again, we'll have to wait and see. But for the first time in a long time, this club actually looks like it's buying players because they fit the plan, not changing the plan every time they buy someone new. Let us know in the comments, do you trust Micheal Carrick to actually fix this club's identity crisis? And which of the summer signings do you think ends up making the biggest difference this season? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to Football Detailing for more.